Over the last 3 off seasons, we have provided you with a ton of facts using nothing but data, history, and actual physical math problems on the screen. By this point, we know what the most successful strategies are in fantasy football. And we have said for years, do not lock yourself in to a certain position in a certain round. You need to take what the draft gives you and build a well-rounded team. But there is just so much going on during your fantasy football drafts that even the most seasoned players can make mistakes when the clock is ticking down. That's why today, I'm sharing with you a cheat sheet that I built for every draft position so you can build banger teams. Now, I would love to be able to sit out there with each and every one of you while you're doing your fantasy football drafts, but despite being old, fat, and my hair turning white, I can't be everyone's fantasy Santa Claus all around the world. But today I am going to give you a present, something that you can take with you to your fantasy football drafts that will help you determine the direction in which you need to go no matter where you're drafting. Now, in return, all I ask is if you enjoyed today's show and you aren't subscribed, please help us reach our goal of 250,000 subscribers. Now, if you're here and you're already subscribed, I see you. What's going on, Headliner Nation? Now, if we get through this show and your fantasy tail is a wagon and you want more information, go out there and get yourself a 2025 fantasy football draft guide. It's got rankings and cheat sheets, injury analysis. Kyle just broke down a small piece of what the DRBR is in yesterday's video. It has everything you need to be successful in the game of fantasy football here in the year of 2025. All you gotta do, head over to tfhdraftguide.com and get yourself one right now. Links down below in the description. But do you like deals? Do you want to get a free draft guide? All you gotta do is head over to Underdog Fantasy or download the app. Create a new account using the referral code Headliners when you do so. Then make your initial minimum deposit and enter a contest of your choice. It can be a best ball draft, it can be a player pick'em, it does not matter. Once you follow all those steps, Underdog is going to cover the cost of your draft guide. They're also going to give you a free player pick'em, they're also going to give you a first time deposit bonus and throw some bonus funds into your account. It's a great deal. Like I said, there's links to everything down below in the description. But let's go ahead and dive into today's show because I have a feeling this will be one of the best videos we put out all offseason. We're about to help millions and millions of people. I broke down all 12 draft positions. I then built a round-by-round cheat sheet of which direction you may want to go in that round. But I also added a little bit of flexibility. Now, we also need to realize that every year is different. The strategy that may be best in 2025 may be slightly different in 2026. It all depends on the player pool. Now, when I started to dive into each draft position, I really came to the conclusion that we can split this up into 4 separate groups, 4 different strategies. There's a strategy if you own the number 1 overall pick. There's a strategy if you're somewhere in that pick 2 to 5 range. Another strategy if you're in that pick 6 to 8 range. And lastly, the 4th strategy if you're sitting somewhere between picks 9 and 12. Now today we're going to hit each strategy and I'm going to show you a sample team that was drafted using that strategy. There are timestamps down below so you can jump right to your specific draft spot. But there is one thing that I want to emphasize here before we dive into each strategy. We have talked all off season long about building up that solid running back core and giving yourself 2 solid wide receivers as well. So earlier in the offseason, during a few of our exercises, we found that by the end of the 5th round, you need to have 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers by that point. But we all know that draft positions are different, so let's go ahead and dive into the first strategy and talk about having the number 1 overall pick. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I believe the number 1 overall pick has the greatest opportunity at landing high finishers at each position. So when it comes to the number 1 overall pick, let's go ahead and land the number 1 overall wide receiver and lock in Jamar Chase. Now, after the number 1 pick, you know you gotta wait a while, right? The last pick of the 2nd round, the first pick of the 3rd. And as much as I don't like to lock myself into certain positions in certain rounds, this strategy almost demands it. If you're to pass at the running back position here at the second, third round turn, and then you have to wait all the way until the fourth and the fifth to grab your starting running backs, the chances of you landing a high performer are less than 50%. So in the second and third round, I'm locking up 2 of the 3 running backs that I need in the first 5 rounds. Now after that, we have a long wait once again till it comes all the way back to us in round 4. This round has a little bit more freedom. You're looking for the best available either running back or wide receiver. Now, depending on who you take in round 4, it will determine what you need in round 5. If the best player on the board in round 4 was a wide receiver, that means you're looking at running back in round 5. But in reality, it doesn't really matter since you have back-to-back picks anyway. Take the best available running back with one pick, the best available wide receiver with the other. That'll give you your 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers needed by the end of round 5. Now, after round 5, almost every single strategy is similar. Between the rounds 6 and 10, this is where you're trying to find your starting quarterback, your starting tight end, and additional running backs and wide receivers. It has been proven over the last few years that the majority of teams out there winning fantasy championships are the guys riding the coattails of that mid-round quarterback that pops off. Guys in recent history like Baker Mayfield and Jaden Daniels last season. But what's great about this is you're able to look at what quarterbacks and tight ends are available. You're able to see if you need to take one right away in round 6 and 7, or can you maybe wait a little bit longer? More than likely, you've already filled out your starting roster when it comes to running backs, wide receivers, and your flex spot. So if you have some running backs or wide receivers left on the board that you can take in the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, and then hold off on quarterback and tight end to the 9th and 10th, you can really give yourself some great depth. Now after round 10, we move down to round 11, 12, and 13. Now a lot of people will tell you that you do not need 2 tight ends, but remember, we waited until the middle rounds to take our tight end 1, which means we more than likely didn't get one of those top tier elite guys, George Kittle, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride. So to better our chances at landing a top finisher at the tight end position, we're taking 2 chances. We're going to take 2 tight ends in hopes that just one of them can be a top 10 to 12 finisher. Now in the remaining rounds there, we're just getting extra depth at either running back or wide receiver, which takes us then to round 14. And this may be a little bit different for a lot of people. This is where I'll take my team defense. Now, forever, the strategy has been just take your kicker and defense in the last 2 rounds of your draft. But I have found that if you take them at least 1 round earlier, you're able to get a higher tier defense and kicker by doing so, because so many people wait. So in round 14, we're going team defense. In round 15, we're going with a kicker. Now, last but not least, in the 16th round, this is where I'm drafting either a lottery ticket sleeper or a quarterback 2. If you did not land the quarterback you wanted, and it's somebody who has a lot of risk, look at the player pool you have available. If you have a ton of quarterbacks remaining, get yourself a lottery ticket sleeper. If you're in a deeper league, or maybe teams in your league just stash a bunch of quarterbacks and the waiver wire is going to be empty, if you had a risky option for your QB1, this is where you can take a QB2 in hopes that you really don't need them, but you have them just in case. Now, if you follow this exact strategy, this is a team you could end up with here in 2025. We know it's Jamar Chase in the first round. After that, we're supposed to go back-to-back running backs. That's where you can get guys like Kyren Williams and James Cook. Now in round 4, that's where we're supposed to grab the best available running back or wide receiver. We can lock in Travion Henderson right there, and then with the very next pick in the 5th round, grab our wide receiver 2 with stud rookie Teteroa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, but I can't imagine there are too many people out there that would be bummed out with the start of Jamar Chase, Kyren Williams, James Cook, Travion Henderson, and Teteroa McMillan. That's about as solid of a start as you can get in this game. Now, after T-Mac, we go down to that round 6 through 10, right? This is where we're looking for our quarterback, our tight end, and additional help at running back and wide receiver. Right here, for this team, remember we had to wait till the end of the 6th round. We got Bo Nix and then followed it up with Tyrone Tracy. By the time you hit round 7, there are not a lot of starting running backs left and available. So right there with the first pick of the 7th round, if we don't take Tyrone Tracy, there will be no starters by the time it comes back. Now, after Tracy in the 8th round and 9th round, a couple of wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall and Emeka Egbuka, arguably the wide receiver one in San Francisco, and a rookie that's going to have an immediate role in Tampa Bay in Egbuka. But then remember, it's the 10th round now. We need a tight end. We're going Evan Ingram in Denver. We're going to stack him with Bo Nix, which then takes us down to our round 11 through 13 area. We're looking for a tight end 2 and additional running backs and wide receivers. This is where we grab Braylon Allen, Wan'Dale Robinson, and as our tight end 2, Kyle Pitts in the 13th round. Remember, we already have Evan Ingram, and Kyle Pitts at this point is almost free. If he pops off early, you could have a potential trade target on your hands where you could get something that you may need. Now, after this, we move down to round 14 where we get our defense. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, following up with a kicker, Brandon Aubrey. And then now we're looking for our lottery ticket sleeper or a quarterback 2 if we were unhappy with our quarterback selection. Personally, I love Bo Nix, so give me a lottery ticket sleeper. I'm going Jarquez Hunter of the Los Angeles Rams. I took Kyren Williams earlier, and even if Kyren Williams were to go down, we're going to see a split between Jarquez Hunter and Blake Corum. But Corum is more expensive than Hunter, so I get a piece of that backfield that could have an immediate role if one of my starters does go down. So tell me what you think. If you had the number 1 overall pick, are you liking this team that we have on paper? Because I'm telling you right now, I would roll with this team in almost every single one of my leagues. But now we need to move past the number 1 overall pick, and the next strategy is really for those picks 2 through 5. And honestly, this is my next favorite spot to draft. The top 5 overall picks is where I'm loving to live in 2025. And this one will be slightly different than the number 1 pick. In the first round, don't be stupid. Don't pass on a top 4 stud running back. I'm talking Bijan, Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, and yes, I'm also including Derrick Henry. If I'm anywhere between picks 2 and 5, I'm taking a stud running back in the first round. Now, when it comes back to us in the second round, we have an option, right? If a top 12 running back is still on the board, I'm taking him here. If they're all gone and have already been drafted, then I'm looking at the best available wide receiver to fill our wide receiver 1 spot. So at this point in the draft, you may have 1 running back and 1 wide receiver or 2 running backs, which then takes us to round 3. If we haven't gotten our second running back by now, we need to. Now, if we already have 2 running backs, that means we should be looking at our number 1 wide receiver option. If you don't like any of those guys on the board, you can always go with 3 straight running backs and get your RB3 in the 3rd round, which takes us to rounds 4 and 5, where we know we need 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers by that point. And it doesn't really matter. Take what the draft gives you. If the better running back is on the board in the 4th, take him, then come back in the 5th and fill out that second wide receiver slot. Now, after we get through round 5, everything is the same as the number 1 overall pick. From round 6 through 10, we're looking for our quarterback, our tight end, and additional help at the running back and wide receiver position. In rounds 11 through 13, we're looking for our tight end 2 and even more running backs and wide receivers. In round 14, your team defense. Round 15 is your kicker, and then once again in round 16, it's your lottery ticket sleeper or a quarterback 2. Now, if you follow this strategy, this is a team you could end up with. We had to have that stud running back at the beginning, right? So we got Saquon Barkley. By the time it came back to us in the second round, there was still a top 12 running back on the board in Bucky Irving, so he was taken. Then coming back in the 3rd round, now we need a wide receiver 1 or a running back 3. With Tyreek Hill sitting here in the 3rd round, he is a risk I'm willing to take. Coming back in the 4th round, we got to get either a running back or a wide receiver. We got DeAndre Swift in the 4th and then Calvin Ridley in the 5th. Now, a lot of people will look at Calvin Ridley and be like, I don't really love him as my wide receiver 2. Don't worry. We build depth in the middle of the draft. Now, starting in round 6, right, this is where we're looking tight end. quarterback, and more wide receivers and running backs. In the 6th round, I got the Bake Show Baker Mayfield. Followed it up with Jerry Jeudy and Deebo Samuel. More wide receiver depth just in case. In the 9th round, any available running backs, I went with Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville. Now, even though he's in a split backfield, at this point of your fantasy football drafts, there may not be a running back available with more week 1 opportunity than Tank Bigsby. Then in the 10th round, I'm looking for my tight end. I went with David Njoku, which took us down to rounds 11 through 13. I'm looking for my second tight end because I didn't get one of the top 3 studs. And then even more help at running back and wide receiver, going with guys like Rachaad White, taking the handcuff to Bucky Irving. We got Tucker Kraft as our tight end too. And then how about taking a shot on rookie wide receiver Dante Thornton Jr. out of Las Vegas? As of right now, number 2 on the depth chart. We then grab our defense in round 14 with the Ravens, the kicker in round 15 with Cameron Dicker, the kicker, and then we're looking for either a lottery ticket sleeper or a quarterback 2 in the 16th round. I'm happy with the Bake Show as my quarterback, so give me a lottery ticket and give me some Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I feel like everyone on earth is talking about this kid right now, and there's actually trade rumors out there surrounding Brian Robinson Jr. If that were to happen, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt may have an immediate large role in week 1. So like I said, if you're picking anywhere between picks 2 and 5, this is the strategy you need to be using to build a banger team. Look at the team we built using this strategy. I think a lot of people, myself included, would be pumped to rock with this team in 2025. But now, let's move down the draft board. Maybe you're picking somewhere between pick 6 and 8. And if you are, I'm sorry, this is my least favorite spot to be drafting in 2025. And I say that because there's a lot more unknown at this position. By the time you come up to pick in the 1st round, more than likely you may not have a top 4 running back available. Jamar Chase is probably going to be gone, which means you're going to be looking for the best available wide receiver if a top 4 running back did not fall. If one of the big 4 fall, you take them and say thank you. However, if they're gone, that's when you start looking at the wide receiver position. We then come back in the 2nd round. Now, if you did not get a running back in round 1, you definitely need a running back in round 2. You cannot, and I stress that, cannot wait until round 3 to grab your RB1. So if you went running back in the 1st, you can look for your wide receiver 1 here if they're on the board. You can also go with your running back 2 and get 2 straight running backs. That would be fine as well. Now, when we come back in the 3rd round, we're either looking for our running back 2, our wide receiver 2, or even our running back 3 if you want to go with 3 straight backs. Now, more times than not, you'll start off with a wide receiver here and then maybe go back-to-back running back in the 2nd or 3rd, which takes us to rounds 4 and 5. We got to get 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. It doesn't really matter which one in which round. Take what the draft gives you. Just be sure to have your RB3 and your wide receiver 2 by the end of round 5. Now, once again, after round 5, it's identical to every other pick. In rounds 6 through 10, we're looking for that quarterback, tight end, and additional running back and wide receiver help. Then we move on to 11 through 13, where we're looking for our tight end 2 and even more running backs and wide receivers. Then we finish it off once again with our defense, kicker, and a lottery ticket sleeper, or our quarterback 2. Now, if you follow this strategy from these picks, this is a team you could end up with. Now, assuming the top 4 running backs are off the board, you can grab yourself a wide receiver like Malik Neighbors. But I told you, you gotta get a running back then in the 2nd round. Somebody like Josh Jacobs could be sitting there for you. We then come back in the 3rd round and we're starting to notice that running backs are running thin and there's still some solid wide receivers left. So we grabbed another running back and took Alvin Kamara as our running back 2. Which brings us back to rounds 4 and 5. We had 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver, which means between these 2 picks, we needed 1 wide receiver and 1 running back. Well, at this spot, we chose to go DJ Moore as our wide receiver 2, and then finished up our RB3 spot in the 5th round with Aaron Jones, which took us to those mid rounds, right? We're looking for a quarterback, a tight end, and some extra help at running back and wide receiver. This is where you can take guys like George Pickens, Rome Odunze. If you're super worried about Aaron Jones, you can grab yourself some Jordan Mason. And by grabbing those guys a little bit earlier, it still frees up guys like Dak Prescott and Travis Kelce to fill out your quarterback and tight end positions. Then in rounds 11 through 13, where we're looking for our 2nd tight end and additional help at running back and wide receiver, you can grab guys like Keenan Allen, Isaac Guerrero, and Jake Ferguson. Maybe Kelsey starts off a little bit slow. You'll have the stack of Dak and Jake Ferguson. We then finish it out with our defense, the Houston Texans. We got Jake Bates as our kicker. And there's our late ticket sleeper. How about Ollie Gordon, who's making noise in Miami, and Devon Achane is already banged up. That is like the definition of a potential late round lottery ticket sleeper. But I know I said that this was my least favorite area to be in the draft, but honestly, this team isn't all that bad. I just feel like you're way more dependent on your league mates and what they do to really see what falls to you at these spots. So let's go ahead and continue and look at picks 9 through 12 now and see what strategy we should be using there. Now, this is kind of what I like to call the diet version of early round picks. Honestly, if I'm not going to be in the front, I would rather just be in the back. It's solid. It just doesn't pack the same punch. Now, when we look at picks 9 through 12, I'm just going to keep it easy for the first 2 rounds. You need to start balanced from these spots. 1 wide receiver and 1 running back. It doesn't matter in which order you take them, as long as by the time you finish your second round pick, you have 1 of each. You then come back in the 3rd round, and this is where you're trying to snag your RB2. Don't get cute. Don't wait on running backs. You need to have 2 running backs by the end of round 3. Once we get to rounds 4 and 5, you have a little bit more flexibility. By that point, you will need 1 running back and 1 wide receiver. It does not matter which one you take in which round, as long as what? Yes, by the end of round 5, you have 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. Now, yes, just like all the other strategies, after round 5, everything is the same. From 6 through 10, you're looking for your quarterback, your tight end, and additional depth at running back and wide receiver. Then after that, we're going from picks 11 through 13, more running backs, wide receivers, and your tight end 2, finishing out with our defense, kicker, and then either our quarterback 2 or lottery ticket sleeper. Now, from this position, following this strategy, this is a team you could end up with. You started off at the beginning with Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions, but when you come back, you had to start balanced, so we're going with Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. When we come back in the 3rd round, we gotta take another running back. Remember, they're going to be running out, so we grabbed Kenneth Walker. As we come back around in the 4th round, we have a choice to make. Do we want to go with our wide receiver 2, or is there another running back on the board that's going to help our team out? In this case, we had another running back in Chuba Hubbard. Now, obviously, by going running back 3 of the first 4 picks, it means our wide receiver 2 may not be as high tier as what we're hoping for. And you can tell that by our 5th round pick being Courtland Sutton. Not bad, a solid wide receiver 2, which brings us into rounds 6 through 10. Quarterback, tight end, additional wide receivers, and running backs. Here in the 6th round, we grabbed TJ Hawkinson. We then followed it up with Stephon Diggs. Diggs has a little bit of risk coming off the major injury, but what if he is 100% by week 1, and then all of a sudden we can slot him in for Courtland Sutton and give our lineup maybe a little bit of a boost. Now, after him in the 8th round, we went with Zach Charbonnet. Hey, why? We took Kenneth Walker, so you better believe we're taking Zach Charbonnet. Then we finish it up with Keon Coleman, which means now we need a quarterback in the 10th round. We went with Caleb Williams. The Bears offense looking like it's going to put up some serious points this year. I don't dislike Caleb Williams at all, which takes us to 11 through 13, a tight end 2, and some added depth. How about Cedric Tillman in Cleveland? Followed by Trey Benson, who we absolutely love as a sleeper this offseason in Arizona, and then another tight end that a lot of people aren't talking about, but they should be talking about, Brenton Strange. Then we finish it up with the Vikings defense, Chase McLaughlin, and then how about DJ Giddens, rookie running back in Indianapolis? We took Jonathan Taylor earlier. If anything happens to Jonathan Taylor, which it has the past couple years, we have his handcuffed and a potential sleeper rookie running back in DJ Giddens. So as you can see, even though we're at the back half of the draft, you can still build a solid roster. Is it as good as the first 5 picks? No, not in my opinion, but still solid. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are going to come back and be like, yeah, I'm not following anything. I'm just going to take what the draft gives me. And then a lot of times, by the time we hit week 4, We're getting so many comments on our live streams and in our comment section because people have 3 or 4 starting wide receivers, but they don't have squat at running back. Follow these strategies. Build balanced teams. Find players when they're actually on the board. Don't just wait and assume they're going to be there for you by the time your pick comes back. Because you got to remember, we're building championship rosters, not championship position groups.
Analytics, off the chain, all the challenge.